welcome back to Identity Hunters. My name is Marion, and in this episode I will be discussing the symbolic power of the fasces. Looking at France's national symbols, I came across it quite a few times and wanted to explore the symbolism behind it. The fasces are a bundle of rods tied together and armed with an axe. After 1789, revolutionary France adopted them as symbols of the revolution and the birth of the First Republic of Europe. They appear on the seal of the Republic, called the Great Seal of France, which is still in use today. Marion, the symbol of the revolution, stands with a pike in one hand and a fasces in the other. They are also present on the national emblem, covered with a shield engraved with the initials RF, meaning French Republic. So, what do they represent? The fasces evoke Roman history and symbolize magistrates' power in classical times. In ancient Rome, attendants typically carried fasces before Rome's higher officials to induce feelings of respect and fear towards the relevant authority. The foundations of authority were violent in nature. The fasces portrayed the leader as an intimidating figure, respected because feared, and united Roman officials were excluding minorities. This was a highly performative institution, which had a lifespan of almost 2 millennia. It made a deep impression of subsequent eras, from the Byzantine period to the present. Looking at France again, French identity was formed and grounded upon the belief of belonging to the Romans. The fasces show the power of symbols in shaping French national identity as a successor of the Roman Republic. They raise a national collective consciousness of who we are and where we're from. Oddly, the emblem has grown largely familiar, but for different reasons than France's historical legacy. Throughout the 19th century, the fasces appeared behind the podium of the House of Representatives in the United States and flourished on statues of George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. Cameroon and Cuba also included them in their national coat of arms. The fasces really turned instrumental in forging new national identities, and what France had been using as historical evocation was certainly no longer very original. Interestingly, the fasces also became a popular symbol in Italy when fascism appropriated its meaning in the 20th century. When Benito Mussolini formed the Fasci Italiani di Combattimento, the precursor to his fascist party in 1919 in Milan, he propagated them on an unprecedented scale in art, architecture, discourses. Throughout the subsequent years, the fascists promoted the fascist ideas of a powerful and monolithic, regimented society under the control of an autocratic leader. The fascists also became part of the standard visual vocabulary of many countries. Public buildings remain decorated with these symbols still today. For example, you can find 12 large fasces on Washington's Department of Justice building. The Supreme Court still in Washington also features them on its facade. Yet, it seems improbable that today the American government would decorate itself with symbols of Italian fascism. So, as we've understood, the fascists are everywhere. And really, we can question how the meaning of the fasces was formed and maintained across centuries. Was the history of Rome exportable? Are meanings malleable, easily fitting any government story to give a reason for national identity? Well, surely the tendency to see the fasces as legitimate symbols has encouraged a link between Roman history and authority. But what is really interesting is not so much its institutional continuity than its identity-making power. The fasces grew extremely powerful as political symbols expressing nationhood. As we've seen, we find revivals and reinterpretations of the ancient fasces accelerating, especially after 1789 and the birth of the French nation. So naturally, it became a tool of civilization. Its meaning violated to accept national identities as a historic principle. Perhaps this explains the number of countries using them as a national symbol: the French Republicans, Fascist Italians, American patriots, Cameroonian communities, Cuban nationalists, and so on. There is definitely a certain continuity in efforts to define one's past through ancient symbols. National identity is constructed through discourses where myths, symbols, and memories of pre-modern communities are constantly reshaped. As interpretations of the fascist flourish, its meaning is constantly reinvented. An interesting quote from the author George Orwell says, "The word fascism is almost entirely meaningless." Well, if we compare it to the fascists, we can almost say that, contrary to many words in political discussions which lost meaning because they refer to too many different things, the meaning of the fascist turns almost universal. It has asserted so many national identities across history that its meaning has acquired a symbolic value, allowing countries to present themselves as the only legitimate inheritor of Rome's traditions, customs, and political symbols, and as masters of our common destiny. Ultimately, the fascists favor the symbolic construction of identity. Rarely, if ever, have we been so surrounded by symbols. Crosses, stars, spears, animals, flowers. All these emblems contribute to a nation's soul and characteristics as emblems of the community they represent. Like the fascists, these symbols are integrative forces making citizens identify with one another as writers of their country's nations. The fascists proved that, after all, one's evocation does not mean that one owns the meaning. In my opinion, this should raise our awareness of the power of symbols in redefining history. In a world where symbols are omnipresent, the fascist is a stunning example that history is what you make of it. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed.